RJ Barrett is easily one of the most important players on the Knicks. After getting drafted 3rd overall by New York in 2019, he's improved every year in the league, but hasn't quite reached that all-star level yet. This offseason, RJ Barrett is extension eligible and could possibly get a max extension. So is RJ a max level player, and will the Knicks give it to him? I'm going to dissect all of that, but before we continue, I need you to hit that subscribe button. If you like watching insightful and informative content on the Knicks, then this is the place to be. So drop a like on the video and subscribe. A max extension for RJ Barrett would be worth 5 years, $185 million. This would instantly make him the highest paid player on the team. The highest paid player on the team as of now is Julius Randle, who's on the 2nd year of a 4-year, $117 million extension. Now, RJ Barrett has gotten better every year he's been in the league, but I wouldn't say he's brought himself to the level of a max player yet. So far, 3 players in RJ's draft class have gotten max extensions, and that's Zion, Ja Morant, and Darius Garland. But all 3 of these guys have not only raised their game to an elite level, but they've made the All-Star team, something RJ has failed to do 3 years in the league. But RJ has become a pretty good player. But how good is RJ actually? Last season, Barrett put up 20.6 boards and 3 assists per game on 41% from the field, 34% from 3, and 71% from the free throw line. RJ checks a lot of boxes that you like to see in a modern wing, but he's also got a lot of deficiencies that keeps him from being an all-star level player. In terms of his strengths, RJ is a very good perimeter defender that's proven he can be given the job of guarding the other team's wing player like DeMar DeRozan and like Jason Tatum and do a damn good job. He's a good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. His outside shooting did regress last season, but he did hit 37% of his off the catch 3-pointers, which is solid. He's a good rebounder, and he's also a high volume scorer. He scored a lot of points last season, and he proved he can get hot at any moment and take over games. Last season, he dropped a career-high 46 points in the Miami Heat, but he also is pretty inefficient with his scoring, with just a 51% true shooting percentage. In terms of his weaknesses, RJ's main problem is how inefficient he is. Yes, he can score a ton of points, but because of his lack of shot-making ability, he averages 20 a game on Russell Westbrook level efficiency. RJ has no problem getting to the rim, but his finishing is awful. He was the least efficient high-volume shooter in the paint last season, only shooting 46% in that range. He also got blocked more than anyone in the league last season, with most of those coming in the paint area. To be fair, he didn't play with great spacing, playing alongside 2 non-shooting bigs in Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson, but even in that context, he was still underwhelming as a finisher. He also really struggles as a pull-up shooter and a free throw shooter, and his playmaking also needs to improve because instead of kicking the ball out to the open man, too often he takes it himself and gets his shot blocked. So if RJ Barrett, we have a wing player with some skills you want to see in a modern wing. He can really defend, he can shoot, and he can score, but his lack of efficiency puts him far below an elite status. So how much is a player of this caliber really worth annually? RJ is a small forward, and the top small forwards in the league are making well over $30 million a year. He certainly isn't worth that much in my opinion. When we look at small forwards that are around RJ's caliber, I'm talking about Mikal Bridges, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Harrison Barnes. They're making about $20 million annually. So in a vacuum, a player of RJ Barrett's caliber is probably worth about $20 million annually. The best player comparison I can think of when it comes to RJ's contract situation is Keldon Johnson of the Spurs, who's also in RJ's draft class but was taken with the 29th pick. He just signed a 4-year, $80 million contract with the Spurs, which amounts to about $20 million annually. Keldon Johnson is a pretty under-the-radar player. For those who don't know, he's a 6'6" small forward just like RJ, and he's coming off a year where he averaged a career-high 17 points per game on 46% shooting from the field. RJ is pretty close to the same level of player that Keldon Johnson is. So again, in a vacuum, his play on the court probably is a $20 million a year guy, but I doubt RJ would accept a contract like the one Keldon Johnson got, and he probably would get offended by that offer. But according to Mark Berman of The Post, members within the Knicks organization don't really see RJ as a max extension level player, and I would agree with them. But it's also fair to mention that RJ is only 22 years old and headed into his 4th year, so it's still possible that he can evolve into an all-star level player. And at this point, I highly doubt the front office wants to max out RJ when he hasn't raised his game to an all-star level yet. I'm personally a big RJ Barrett fan, but I wouldn't give him the max either unless he's earned it. The Knicks have been doing business a lot differently since they've been run by Leon Rose, and they've been a lot more judicious with how they've given out contracts. For the most part, Leon Rose hasn't overpaid anyone. Now, the Julius Randle contract has proven to be an overpay, but to be fair, Randle was an all-star when they gave him that contract. Randle just fell off a cliff. It wasn't an obvious disaster the second it was signed, like the Joakim Noah contract back in 2016. So the point is, I don't think the front office gives RJ a max extension this summer, not when they have him on one more cheap year and they can see if RJ can raise his game to an all-star level in his 4th year. The Knicks have all the power because next season RJ will be a restricted free agent where they can match any offer, so there's no reason to rush into an extension. I think the Knicks management will see how next year plays out, and if RJ can bring his game to an all-star level or at least close to it, they'll give him that 5-year max. As for RJ, I'm sure he wants the max, and I think he would be more than likely to bet on himself than take what he thinks is a low-ball offer. Now, I'm not saying I'm RJ's agent or anything, but I do know that RJ is a very confident player, and he did say not too long ago that he thinks he could be an all-star next year and lead the Knicks to the playoffs. RJ sees himself as a future all-star, and all-stars get paid the big bucks. So I think RJ will go into this season looking to raise his market value with his play on the court. For now, I doubt RJ and management agree to anything this summer. But now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that RJ is worth a max extension? How would you handle the situation if you were Leon Rose? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it and hit that subscribe button. Now click this video to see why RJ, along with 3 other Knicks players, could potentially break out in 2023.